I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thanks for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. I know that you spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I'm especially excited about today's show to welcome a dear friend and colleague, Maureen Berkner Boyt, to the show. Mo, welcome.
Caroline, it is wonderful to be here.
I am so glad you're here, and I want to tell our listeners all about you. You are my favorite friend, leading with Moxie, my dear, so let me tell them all about you. Mo is the founder of the Moxie Exchange Movement and its Girls Leadership Development Program, the Go Girl Project. She is a thought partner to organizations and executives serious about women's leadership development and learning. She's really a rock star. I've known Mo for a long time. She's a lifelong student of leadership, business, and success, and she's coached and trained thousands of leaders around the globe. She's founded multiple success businesses, lived and worked internationally, and she loves taking business ideas and making them come to life. So Mo, welcome. So glad you're with me.
Yeah, let's dive in, Caroline.
Yeah, we always have a great conversation.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the state of the workplace for women these days, because things are changing. And specifically, Mo, are we facing the same barriers that we did, 30 years ago? How have things changed?
That is a great question. And the answer is that things are both better and in some ways worse. Certainly, we've made progress, right? The blatant harassment and discrimination are way down, right? The days of sort of the Mad Men workplace are over.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Right. And I think we're having a conversation about women and leadership and work, this dialogue that wasn't happening even just a few years ago. So I think there's an awareness that is much better than it used to be. Now, on the flip side, although there's this awareness and although there's this conversation, the numbers really haven't changed.
Yeah.
And they haven't changed significantly for the past 10 to 15 years. So we're still making less money for equal work. There's still lack of female representation, really from the manager level on up, even though we're graduating with college degrees at higher rates than men. And, if you've got a business, we're still getting funded at significantly less than men and so on. And some of this, Caroline, really rests on the shoulders of women and some on the shoulders of companies. There's really a dance that needs to happen now where everybody needs to understand what their responsibility is. I have never talked with anyone that says, gosh, I really want it to be this way.
Right. So true.
More it's people just puzzled and saying, why are we still having to have this conversation? I can't believe we haven't figured this out. And at the end of the day, everybody is losing. There's, again, more and more research coming out, everything from the IQ of teams is higher when you've got diversity to profitability, return on equity, everything. So it's time to move the dial to figure it out. And I wish there was a silver bullet. I think we're where we are because there isn't.
Right. And I really appreciate how you said that the onus is on all of the players, right? It's not just women. It is on organizations. It's on individuals. I think our government can have a play in this as well at large. So it's multi-layered. It's not just a woman's problem and a woman's issue. It impacts the global economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was such a backlash to Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, because people thought what she was saying is that it was all on women. Right. So women were saying, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
I'm leaning in and I'm leaning against a brick wall.
Right.
And I think that dialogue has since changed. Cheryl's been, very open about, no, this is everybody that needs to be in. And I think that's the place where the complexity comes in too. So much of this now is unconscious bias.
Right.
And that's a much harder nut to crack.
It is, because it's difficult to identify and to fix and to unpack, right? Because sometimes it's seemingly invisible, right? How do you solve a problem that you can't articulate 100%? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm with you. Speaking of books, you wrote a tremendous 5-book series called Rock Your Moxie: Power Moves for Women Leading the Way, which I absolutely treasure and recommend every day, including today. So I want our listeners to definitely check that out. But let's talk a little bit, Mo, about 3 things that are holding women back in their career today. And let's take it a step further and figure out how we can solve those issues.
You bet. The first I would say is really the confidence gap. Caroline, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read the book, The Confidence Code by
Oh,
Kat.
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I have.
So I would say to your listeners, if you have not had the opportunity to read that book, I recommend it because it talks about all of the research, everything from our brain wiring to our beliefs and how that's holding women back. And what that, when it really boils down to it is we lack confidence at much larger measures than men. So we don't believe we're capable, and then we don't even try. So we read a job description and we say, oh, I'm not 100% qualified. I'm not even going to put my name in the hat. And that's the piece where I say it's on everybody. Hey, as women, we need to figure that out and understand I might not feel the confidence, but I'm equally qualified and I need to take action and put my foot forward one tiny step and take the next tiny step and the next tiny step. So that's really, you ask kind of what's holding them back, but what can we do? Have this bias for action. Because with action comes confidence. So we can take care of that confidence gap by creating all these little tiny wins and maybe some little tiny failures and realize, gosh, we can overcome those failures. It didn't kill me.
Right.
So I can take that next step that's probably going to be a success.
Mo, you talk about the book, The Confidence Code, and I had the great pleasure of meeting Katty Kay and Claire Shipman, who co-authored that book last week. We were both speaking at a conference, and they were extraordinary. And the audience was just rapt listening to them unpack the science of confidence. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. And they also shared that men are hired for potential. And I believe that women need to get into that game. We can learn a lot from men who are hired based on their potential, and women can play that same game. So thank you for bringing up the concept of confidence gap.
Well, and I think what's interesting is, when you talk about things that are holding women back, it is that unconscious bias is another one. So organizations not understanding that they are hiring based on, they believe that a man is capable of, but a woman already needs to be performing.
She needs to prove it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that conversation as an organization to say, let's look at our hiring practices, our promotion practices, how we're giving stretch assignments, and let's unbundle where that unconscious bias is. The first is to have everybody even believe that it exists.
Right.
So I love when you can point to data. And there's all kinds of data. And by the way, this is not different for men or for women. Women also hold an unconscious bias against other women.
Right.
So we need to look at that and to say, how can we be like the great orchestras of the world who are now having, the auditions happen behind a curtain.
Right.
So they don't know whether it's a man or a woman playing that violin. And as soon as orchestras started doing that, they saw their numbers of women shoot up. How can we, without having to go to that extreme, how can we figure that out as organizations and figure out and put into our practices ways to mitigate that unconscious bias?
Love it. Such a good example with the orchestras. Thank you for that.
Yeah. It's fascinating. There was even a piece where the females auditioning would walk in on their tiptoes because they didn't want their high heels to click.
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
So we talked about confidence. Let's talk about a few other things that are holding women back in their career.
Yep. So confidence, unconscious bias. And I think this is kind of a sister to confidence. And that is not understanding that failure is a part of success.
Yes, yes.
And being absolutely willing to fail. And I say fail fast, frequently, and forward.
Love that.
So if you can think about failure as a part of the success equation versus I have to be perfect. And I think when we can let go of perfection and aim for excellence, the game can really change for us. Anything from a Michael Jordan saying that he missed all the shots he didn't take, same
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Gretzky, all of those things, you have to get comfortable with saying, gosh, that one didn't work out. Okay, that didn't work out. What did I learn? And that question of, okay, that was not a success. It was a stumble. And I don't even like the word failure. It was a way to learn.
Yeah.
What did I learn? And then take that next tiny step.
I love that. Fast, frequent, and forward. And you know what I would add to that? I've been hanging out with some Silicon Valley entrepreneurs as of late. And as a woman entrepreneur myself, there's a different mindset in the Midwest where I am, and certainly from the East Coast where I'm originally from. And the Silicon Valley people, failure is a badge of honor. You haven't succeeded until you failed because
Right.
it's
Until
it's a
you can
process. Yeah.
Yeah, until you can say, oh yeah, this is my fourth gig.
Right, right. This is the fourth iteration of this business, the 4.0 version. So I love that. They celebrate it, they welcome it, and it truly is a badge of honor in a way. So thank you for that.
Well, and
So
my
please go
own
ahead.
my own story, Caroline, Moxie would not exist today if I were still looking at the same business model.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Tell
so
us about that. How has Moxie evolved?
we started really with a basis in local public groups.
Yeah.
And that worked to some extent, but boy, then I wrote the books. And what came from the books was a online workshop series. And from that, we really realized that the space where our work was most needed was in big corporations.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was really listening and kind of iterating and saying along the way, gosh, this is working, this is not, this is working, this is not. And paying attention to, and in the failures, to say, what did we learn about the business? What did I learn about my leadership? And that, I would say I wasn't fully baked and ready to lead Moxie 5 years ago in a way that I am now. And all of those experiences make me a stronger and more savvy businesswoman today.
Excellent. I love it. So Mo, you are a coach, you are a great public speaker, you're a trainer, you're a leadership expert helping empowering women and others to become more successful. So let's talk a little bit about some things that successful women do differently.
Mm. So a longer range plan, Caroline, is something that I see very consistently. When I ask successful women, tell me what you've got coming up. I mean, it's like you just asked a kid after Christmas what their favorite present was. They
Yeah.
they and they'll whip out, oftentimes there's this little folded piece of paper they carry with them, and it's like, well, it's this and this. And so they're very intentional about the way they're living their life.
Yeah.
And when I say life, I don't think there's work-life balance. I think it's life.
Yeah.
And so they have plans. They have plans personally, professionally, and they can articulate those. They know what it looks like. One of my favorite exercises is writing yourself a 5-year letter,
Oh, nice.
as if you are leading your ideal life. And you're talking about everything from your health to your career to your relationships. And then breaking that down, chunking that down into, what do I need to do in the next 3 years to make that happen, the next 18 months, the next year, quarter, week, day, and really breaking down that plan and having that bias for action that goes along with the plan. So you're taking it past dreaming. Eleanor Roosevelt, one of my favorite quotes, it takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan.
Very
Um,
nice.
and then the execution of those plans, those two things. And it's not sexy, right? That's not sexy, talking about planning and about execution, but that is by far a huge differentiator in successful women.
I love that. And, it gives women permission to say, okay, let's put this on paper. Let's really set this in motion. Let's take baby steps to move this forward, but have a plan. Love
And
that.
and I will tell you, so many times, particularly with women that have children,
Yeah.
they have a very difficult time dreaming for themselves
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
planning for themselves. So also giving yourself permission that the first time you sit down to do this, it might be very difficult. It might take you, 2 weeks, a month to get these dreams and ideas and plan on paper. That's okay. Just keep the first time I did this 10, 15 years ago, I just left my Moleskine journal out. And every time I went by, it was like, oh, I thought about this and I thought about this. And this picture began to emerge of
Yeah.
my ideal life. It wasn't that I had to sit down today and figure it out.
Yeah, it's got to be incremental, right? And inspiration, your muse strikes at different times, so be at the ready. So let me ask, with the letter exercise, do you mail yourself the letter so you have that accountability to say, okay, this is the plan?
I keep mine handy. I'm a big
Okay.
fan. I am a big fan of both lists and journaling. And
Yeah.
so I have a Moleskine journal, and I know where my 5-year letters to myself are. Now,
Nice.
my husband and I actually take this a step further, and I would suggest if you have a partner that you do this exercise. We always do this on our anniversary.
Oh, nice.
So we write for, because this exercise is never done.
Right. Right.
There's always that next year that you're adding to your letter, and then compare your letters. And it's amazing how the conversation that starts about creating this ideal life and how it absolutely spurs success. I mean, my husband and I have done everything from travel to 5 continents to he finished a degree, he started a business, I started Moxie. All of these things that were years ago on paper have now come to pass.
That's awesome. Love that. Thank you for that. What a great idea. What a great idea. Another tip for successful women. What does a picture of success look like with the women with whom you work?
Making sure that you have sponsors,
Yeah.
not just mentors. And Caroline, I don't know if you've talked about this on the show before, the difference between mentors and sponsors, but it's so critical. And again, the data bears this out. Mentors are going to share ideas. They're going to maybe give you some coaching. A sponsor is a mentor on steroids. Active, they're actively creating a draft for you. They are opening doors. They are recommending you for things. It is a critical relationship. And when you look at everybody, we talked about Sheryl Sandberg or Ursula Burns, CEO of Xerox. They can all point to very powerful sponsors that they had in their lives and in their careers that got them to where they are. And it's interesting. I laugh when people say, "Oh, men don't ask for help." I find the absolute opposite to be true. In the workplace, men are brilliant at asking for help. Women, on the other hand, are saying, I got to do this alone or I'm going to die trying."
Right,
Right.
right.
But if you look at very successful women, they understand that this is not a solo ascent. You need to have a team. And in particular, you need to have that guide who is that sponsor, or maybe multiple sponsors who are really showing you the way and setting up the ropes for you so that you can succeed.
I love that. And thank you for unpacking the difference between mentor and sponsor. And I would add to that, just to dovetail on the great points that you already made. You can't sign up for a sponsor, right? You have to earn it by doing great work and being visible, being seen and heard, which our male counterparts do so well. So that is part of the confidence factor, right? Be seen and heard doing great work. And I think it's our responsibility as women to pay it forward and throw the ladder down, throw it over, under, right? And help someone else on their journey.
Yeah, there's really interesting research about this, Caroline. So women do sponsor one another at pretty amazing levels. The problem becomes there aren't enough women at the top to sponsor all the women that are coming up. And
Yeah.
the research shows, and this is really important as an organization to talk about, you have to be able to talk about sex.
Yes.
And
Yep.
what do I mean by that? That you have to get past the idea that an older male is going to need to sponsor a younger female, and that is not an affair. That is a business relationship that's based on sponsorship. But the research has shown that why both men and women hesitate is they don't, their personal brand is on the line, and they don't want people to think that they're having an affair. So if, as an organization, you have that conversation to say, hey, here's the data on sponsorship. We understand how important this is. We understand as an organization that if we want to get more women into leadership, that means that older males are going to have to be sponsoring younger females. And let's get past kind of a middle school mentality and realize this is a business relationship.
Beautifully put. We need to get over it. And I'm so glad you said that because I've had some great male sponsors throughout my career, and I will continue to have male sponsors, and they've been tremendously helpful, as have my women sponsors. So it can be done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
So, Mo, you are tearing up the speaking circuit, my dear. I'm so proud of you. Things are going so well. You are just everywhere. Tell me, you've got some amazing workshops coming up. Tell me what's next.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be speaking at the Young Presidents Organization (YPO) at their Lean In conference, and
Nice.
I'm going to be both their MC and their keynote speaker, and that's taking
Nice.
place in March. There'll be women from around the globe. It's going to be very exciting. Talking about, how do you build this amazing life? Yeah, I love your tagline, Caroline, because it's perfect.
Oh,
Right?
well, good. Good.
You talk about both. And it's interesting. I tend to talk on two topics. One is what do highly successful women do differently? And then the other is as an organization, what do we need to do to
Yeah.
overcome this unconscious bias and get more women leading? So it's fun. I love it. I was the kid in speech class who said, "Oh, pick me, pick me." So
I love it. Well, we are kindred spirits in that way. And tell us about the workshop series too, because I'm joining you soon. I'm so
yeah,
excited about that.
I'm so next month. It'll be in November. So by the time
Hmm.
this podcast runs, it'll be done. But people can listen to the recording as
Hmm.
well. We're going to be talking about bringing your A game,
Yes,
and
we
the
are.
the workshop series itself is great. We've got women from around the globe participating. We've got everything from a school district in Minnesota
Wow.
who has their women participating to Cisco. And we've got discussion guides and tools and really making learning and growth accessible for women, just like your podcast, where they can join in and then have a conversation as a company about the ideas that they talked about. And one of them, you talked about you don't just get to have a sponsor, you have to earn it. We had a whole workshop that was on sponsorship and
Nice.
what do sponsors look for and how do you position yourself for sponsorship?
Excellent, excellent. So Mo, let's talk about the fact that we're fast approaching 2015, and quite often people are thinking about New Year's resolutions and what we can do to be more successful or happy in life and career. And as you said, there is no separation; it's just life. It's all part of one big, beautiful bucket, right? So, what kinds of things should we be thinking about as we head into a new year?
Well, I know this one is near and dear to your heart, Caroline, and that is asking yourself the question, what have I accomplished this year?
Yeah,
And do the right people know about those accomplishments?
exactly.
If it's one thing, if it happens in a vacuum, that's not going to help you. You've talked about managing up.
Hmm.
And making sure, do those people next step on the rung for you that matter know what you've gotten done? And do you even know? Have you taken the time to pause, breathe, and say, what have I accomplished?
Yeah,
And who
yeah.
are those people that should know about them and how am I going to communicate those? I also am a big fan of a review and analyze process to say, what did I accomplish? I'm sorry, how did I do against my goals this year? And analyze the why behind your successes and behind your misses. Because it's really the learning and the strategic thought you give to those plans that will make the difference for the next year.
Love it. Good advice. Actionable advice. Thank you. Thank you. Maureen Berkner Boyt, you are the founder of the Moxie Exchange Movement, and you are one of my favorite women on the planet. So thank you for being you. I love having conversations with you, and I look forward to our workshop coming up. And as you said, our listeners can check that out online after the fact. But tell us how we can follow you online. You are vibrant in the social media space.
Yeah, we have fun out on Twitter. You can our handles there are both Moxie Exchange, and there are two E's in the middle, one at the end of Moxie and one at the start of the exchange, or Mo Moxie.
Hmm.
And then on LinkedIn, we've got a great group happening. And then I am always excited to link with people there. I think the conversation that's happening out on LinkedIn is amazing. We also have a Facebook page, Moxie Exchange. I would say Twitter and LinkedIn are probably where we're the most active and having the best conversation.
Excellent. And of course, your website, moxieexchange.com.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Mo, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, my dear. I wish you continued success and prosperity as we head into the new year. And I'm so glad you're in my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Take good care. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning into Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. True career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.